Greetings, Recruiting Nation. I'm Senior Chief Burner. Today we're going to be talking about the high school presentation and properly penetrating your market and getting in front of the most qualified people in the least amount of time. Let's talk about what's in it for the recruiter. It's getting into those schools, those STEM programs, those high quality classrooms, and basically conducting a sales presentation on the opportunities and advantages that the United States Navy has to offer for our target market centers. Now, we're about to watch a video of an awesome recruiter conducting that high school presentation and some best ideas. Some of the best tips when you're conducting these presentations, the way that you're going to be engaging your schools. I want you to think about how long in your day that you're prospecting and how many people that you're able to get in front of. Say typically you have a class of 25 people and you have 5 classes and presentations. You have a possibility of having 125 people that you've conducted a sales presentation to and planted the seed of what the Navy has to offer. When you're engaging your principals, your teachers, whomever to get into those classes, make sure that you're giving a whiffum to them as well. Hey, this is an opportunity for me to get in front of the juniors and seniors, because what you want to do is help the teachers, that educational staff understand that you're not just coming in to just sell what the Navy has to offer. And when you're conducting that presentation, always make sure you're using those proper Vegas skills of voice, eye, gesture, and attitude. But other than that, this is an opportunity for us to learn an out-the-box way to get in front of these classes and talk to them about what matters in their life.
I wish the whole school could get this kind of a brief. I wish everybody in public education could get the kind of brief that MA1 Low gives.
I keep inviting them back every year because they are personable, they are wonderful people that have genuine interest in my students. They have brought in content with their presentations in addition to the recruiting.
What was the main reason I joined the Navy? To get my education paid for? And then any guess on the R? My name is Shelby Lowe. I'm recruiting out of NTAG Rocky Mountain in Colorado, and I've been in recruiting for 5 years now.
We've got a variety of classes. NJROTC has freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors. These kids, they can smell anything from a mile away. They know that she's for real.
I mean, BAH, Basic Allowance for Housing. So that's going to go based off the zip code of your college. So if you're going to school here in UCCS, they're paying you about $2,300 a month just for your housing. Now again, you don't have to spend that entire amount. Split the rent with some roommates, with your significant other. Live at home. You are pocketing all of that money every year, tax-free. You are going to be sharing some bunk beds and some bathrooms and showers, a couple other dudes, a couple other ladies on your ship. But honestly, if that's what you're paying to experience in college anyways, because that's what college is like, then why wouldn't you live that way for 6 months and go see 10 different countries in the meantime? So my presentations last as long as the teacher is willing to give me. So my favorite time frame to get is about 1.5 hours long, because if I have 1.5 hours, that gives me plenty of time to do my introduction, the other recruiter's introduction. I can play the 5 Warrior Challenge videos right off of the America's Navy YouTube channel, so that get an introduction to the Spec War programs. Now obviously you want to arrive early. You want to get a lay of the land so you feel comfortable in the classroom and know where everything is that you need. Same thing with setting the ground rules in the classroom. Usually the teacher's going to go ahead and do that for you. I don't usually say that unless they start disrespecting me, because I don't want to immediately come in and sound like a dictator. So if that happens, oh, hey guys, I know I've said some funny things here, I know we're chatty, but just go ahead and try and keep it down, because some people want to hear what I have to say. After that, I do make sure that I set a timer on my phone for about 7 minutes prior to the end of the class period, and that's when I hand out my surveys. You do not want to hand them out at the beginning of the class, because one, they're going to go ahead and fill that out whether you say not to, and they're going to be not paying attention to you while they're filling it out, so they're not listening to anything you're saying, and they're going to go ahead and mark no, they're not interested in the Navy, because they haven't heard your pitch yet. The other thing I do with the surveys is, even though there's a question at the bottom that says, if you're interested and want someone to reach out, mark yes or no, I also tell them, please put a star at the top of the paper if you want more information. The survey is not you signing up for the Navy, it's just showing my boss that I came here and did my job today. But if you do want more information on the Navy, put a star at the top of your paper. Okay. And then if you don't see the career path that you particularly are interested in, I promise you we just can't fit them all on there. So you can just write it on the side. Because I've had surveys where they mark, no, I'm not interested, but then they put a star at the survey. So it's just one more opportunity for you to get a yes on the survey.
I like to also write my name and my phone number on the board. The reason for that is a lot of kids are kind of antisocial these days. They want to have a contact information for you without having to ask you for it.
To make my presentations as relatable and engaging as I can, I try to make the students laugh as early and as often as possible. Personally, when I went up to MEPS, I was like, hey, what do you guys have that doesn't go on chips? Because I got a walk-in closet, and that's not all going to fit on there.
2 years later, my little brother comes along and says, hey, I want to do the same thing. Man. And I thought I was salty then. If you are a high school senior now, your enlistment bonus is at $50,000. That's just to sign up and say, yeah, I'll do that job, I'll go to boot camp, and I'll try my best in school. So that's all it is. Like that.
You for sure do not want to be monotoned. You also don't want to stay stationary in one spot. So walk around the room, inflect your voice, use your hands.
$72,000. Yes, it was taxed because I did it in Norfolk, Virginia. What is it now? Oh, just around $100,000. Okay, well imagine you're out to sea when you do that. I like to use my presentation as a baseline and then actually use the whiteboard to engage with the students, bring something up, redirect their attention from staring at the words on the screen to actually seeing what you're doing, seeing you as a person.
Today I'm here to talk about what matters to the kids. So I'll actually write up that acronym vertically on the board, and I'll make the kids interactive with me by having them guess what each letter is going to stand for. So with that said, what do you think the M stands for? Exactly, everybody's favorite topic. That's close, but actually in this case I'm using it for advancement, so promotion, because the Navy's definitely going to give you promotions. What's the main reason people join the Navy? They want to go travel, exactly. And then is the Navy just going to expect you to know how to do your job, or are they going to give you training? Yep.
Things like writing on the board, adding jokes into your presentation is a really, really good way to get the students to engage with you. It shows them that you're not just somebody who's coming in to steal their life away into the Navy. And it's necessary if you want these students to actually think of you as a person and not as a robot.
To make the money relatable for the students, of course, I'm going to go ahead and tell them what my yearly salary is, because that's what we work off, that's what we're familiar with, but the students might not be familiar with going off of salary. So I'm also going to write out what that makes my monthly income and what that breaks down to per hour, because most of these kids are probably working hourly wage jobs. So if you can break down your pay to a more relatable thing to them, they're going to understand how much money you're truly making. We just talked a lot about
dollar
money.
bills.
Exactly. All right, so by a show of hands, how many of you think that the military pays well? You probably after you saw that, you were like, uh-huh. So about half of you. I'm going to ask that question again in a few minutes and see if I've changed your mind. I'm going to break down my paychecks so you understand how military pay works. So your base pay is the part of your paycheck that everyone gets. Hey, thank you for being in the Navy. And for me as an E6 with 10 years in, Navy pays me $4,170 per month. How does that seem to you guys? It's pretty good, right? But what if I told you that that is only half of my paycheck? It starts to sound a little bit better then. So what else do they give me? That's when I'm going to go into the rest of my pay, and I'm going to make a point to say, name another job that's going to pay you for your groceries. Name another job that's going to pay for your housing. Name another job that's going to pay all of your medical. Anyone know what the average family of 4 in Colorado pays for health care per month? And then I'll relate it to how much it is in the military, which is free. $89,000 per year, and that breaks down to about $46 an hour. Now, do you guys think that the Navy pays well? Think you could squeak by on that? Might pay the bills?
When we do bring up things about retirement or about medical and dental, no, these kids have never had to pay a cent into those things their entire life. However, their teacher has, and their teacher's there. So if you're talking about these things, 9 times out of 10, your teacher's gonna be like, I know that's true, I know that. I had a kid last year and it cost us this much money and we had insurance. And you can say, oh yeah, in the Navy, it's not that much. It's basically free for you to have a kid in the Navy. Having the teacher in there, having the rapport established with the teacher is going to help you relate those things like retirement and the GI Bill together to the student, because that teacher is someone they respect.
They know what it's like to be in the world today where I can't provide that. I'm retired. It's been years since I've been in the loop. So by bringing somebody who's currently serving back into the loop, we get a better, more robust, more informative perspective of the Navy.
Say you want to be a nuclear engineer in the Navy. Do you think you're gonna need some prior experience or training before we hire you as that? You might think so, but no. Everything that you can choose to do in the Navy is gonna be a paid internship. At the end of the presentation, what I like to do is, once the kids are all gone, I've answered all the questions, I'll go up to the instructor and I'll say, hey, now that you've heard my presentation, did you like it? Is there anything that you'd like me to change or adjust? If they do have critique, obviously you wanna take note of that. But after I ask them that, then I say, well, now that you've seen this presentation, do you think there's any other teachers here that would be open to me doing a presentation just like this in your classroom? And then usually they'll say, oh yeah, I'll spread word in the teacher's lounge and see who else is interested. Or they'll say, yeah, actually I know this person and this person that would love to hear this presentation. And at that point I ask, hey, do you mind introducing them to me, or can I get their contact information? Because once you have a good presentation with one teacher, don't just let it go and say, I'll see you next year. Use that teacher to help you get into other classrooms. As far as which teachers you should be reaching out to in the schools, I highly recommend you reach out to any teacher that has upperclassmen in their classes. Even if they have, first period and fifth period has all freshmen, but the rest of them have upperclassmen in them, don't be like, oh, well, I'm only interested in the upperclassmen classes, because that's gonna look really bad on you. That says, I'm just here to get a contract, to get a recruit. I don't care about your students. So be willing to do the underclassmen as well as the upperclassmen. And even if you're gone, you're not recruiting by the time that freshman is a senior, you're still planting the seed. You're still doing the Lord's work for the Navy. So eventually someone's gonna contract that person later if you did a good job on your presentation. If you're getting stonewalled with one teacher, just go around, talk to a different one. And if you're getting stonewalled by the entire school, seek help. See someone that can actually help you break into that school, because per our law, they have to let us in X amount of times per year since they get funding from us. So you don't want to say, can I come do this presentation in your class? Will you come let me? You don't want to say that. Instead, say, would you be open to me coming to do a Navy presentation? That way, they don't have the opportunity to be like, oh no, I don't have time, this week or whatever. You're just simply asking if they're open to you coming to do a presentation whenever works best for their schedule. The way I'll work with a teacher who's kind of on edge about letting me in for a Navy presentation is I'll go ahead and leave them my contact information. And if I've already done a presentation in that school, I'll name drop that teacher. And I'll be like, oh, you can talk to so-and-so and see what my presentation was like and see if you think that's a good fit for your class. And if they're still not really feeling it, you can always try to curb your presentation to their curriculum.
As a teacher, one of my primary responsibilities is educating the students. And I'll tell you that having the content related to my subject is important in those presentations. I think it's important to have a variety of professionals in their fields come talk to the students so that way they know what options are available.
Let's add another inch of lead in there. Oh, wow. Well, now you've got 100 seconds. That sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. Let's add one more inch.
So that's the other big thing, is you want to use your resources, because maybe you don't know much about the Navy band, but band has a lot of students in it. So go talk to the band director and say, hey, would you be open to me coming to do a Navy band presentation?
If you are not comfortable with public speaking, that's me right there. When I first started doing presentations, I was shaking. I thought I was gonna ruin it. I was talking too fast. I didn't have relatable content. Find something you're passionate about. If it's your job, if it's your GI Bill, if it's your BAH, if it's where you've lived, go to a robotics class, go to an automobile class, go to the orchestra if you're musically inclined. I love talking about how I got into this position. First person to tell you I wanted nothing to do with the military when I was in high school, just as much like Shelby was. All I knew from the military was like Call of Duty, my brother's playing video games, shooting other people. I'm just like, yeah, I'm good, I'm gonna sit it out. And then junior year comes around, I'm in AP Calc, AP Physics. Find something that you're passionate about and find it in that school and get in that class, and then you can explore from there. Because once you get your foot in the door and you know that you got a teacher that can back you up, it's just gonna snowball from there.
The ways that I showed that I'm not just here to recruit their kids, I actually do genuinely care about these students. I volunteer to judge their drill competitions, I'll volunteer to work concession stands at their games, I'll volunteer to come in, even if I'm not doing a presentation, just to come say hi. I'm not saying that you have to spend all of your weekends volunteering at the schools and stuff, especially if you've got a lot of them, but try to make an effort at least once a month to do something extra with your school to show those students and those parents that you actually care. You're not just there to get a number out of them, you're there to actually care about them and help them succeed whatever path they choose.
They are somebody's child at the end of the day. The ultimate customer is the mom and dad.
If you're new at presentations, please go shadow a very experienced recruiter for a couple of them just to get the feel of how a presentation goes and how to answer questions. Show up early, make sure you look good, you smell good, etc. Because again, the more confident you feel about yourself, the more that's going to help ease your nerves. Make sure you're very familiar with what you want to say, practice it, role play it with another recruiter or with your significant other. Make sure you're comfortable and you know what you're talking about.
Being able to tell a student my story, that I was scared, I was lost, I didn't know what I needed to do, knowing about it now, it is so important that these kids know about what's out there.